Too old to learn, too late to change, too far behind to catch up. This is the lie that kills potential after 30. Most people believe mastery requires starting young. Child prodigies, teenage athletes, 20-something tech founders. The narrative is clear. If you did not start early, you already lost. This narrative is completely false. Your brain at 30, 40, or 50 has capabilities your teenage brain never had. Adult neuroplasticity is different from young neuroplasticity, but not inferior. In many domains, it is superior. Experience creates learning advantages youth cannot access. Time perspective enables focus, distraction prevents. Resources allow investment, poverty blocks. The truth is counterintuitive. For many high-value skills, starting after 30 is advantage, not limitation. But most people never discover this. They accept the early start myth. They believe their learning window closed. They resign themselves to mediocrity in skills they could master. They waste decades of peak learning potential because they believe that potential no longer exists. This resignation is tragedy, not because everyone should master new skills, but because people who genuinely want mastery abandon pursuit based on false belief about age-related cognitive decline that does not exist the way they think it does. This audiobook destroys the age limitation myth through neuroscience and reveals why age creates mastery advantages in specific domains. Not through motivational platitudes, through understanding how adult brain learns differently but not worse than young brain, through identifying which skills favor adult learners, through frameworks that leverage adult advantages while compensating for adult challenges. You will learn what neuroscience reveals about adult learning capacity, why the critical period myth is misunderstood, how adults learn differently requiring different methods, which cognitive abilities improve with age, which skills are easier to master after 30 than before, how to design practice that matches adult brain architecture, how experience accelerates learning in complex domains. Stop believing you are too old. Start understanding why you are now ready. Master skills after 30. Age is advantage. Now, introduction. The neuroscience of adult learning capacity. There are two beliefs about learning and age. The first belief is the popular myth. Learning capacity peaks in childhood. Brain plasticity declines steadily after adolescence. By 30, significant new skill acquisition becomes nearly impossible. By 40, learning anything complex is fantasy. This myth is supported by selective examples: child language learners, young athletes, teenage musicians. The second belief is the scientific reality. Learning capacity changes with age but does not disappear. Brain plasticity continues throughout life in different forms. Adults at 30, 40, 50 can master complex skills, achieving expert-level performance. The learning process differs from childhood learning, but outcome quality can be identical or superior. Here is what you need to understand. The myth of age-limited learning comes from misunderstanding how different types of learning work and which cognitive changes actually matter. Yes, certain very specific capacities peak young. Absolute processing speed peaks around 18 to 25. Ability to acquire native-level accent in new language is easier before puberty. Some forms of fluid intelligence peak in 20s, but these specific declines are dramatically overweight in popular understanding. They affect very narrow skill domains. For vast majority of valuable skills adults want to learn, these declines are irrelevant. Meanwhile, capacities that improve with age are underweighted. Crystallized intelligence increases through 60 seconds. Pattern recognition in complex domains improves with experience. Emotional regulation enhances learning efficiency. Strategic thinking develops with time perspective. The critical question is not whether brain changes with age. It does. The question is whether those changes prevent skill mastery. For most skills, they do not. Here is what neuroscience reveals. Adult brain learning uses different mechanisms than child brain learning. Child learning relies heavily on implicit pattern absorption. Adult learning relies more on explicit analytical understanding. Both paths reach mastery. They just take different routes. This means adults need different learning methods than children. But different methods does not mean inferior outcomes. In many domains, adult learning is actually more efficient because analytical capacity allows faster conscious pattern recognition. This audiobook provides complete framework for mastering skills after 30 based on understanding how adult brain actually learns. 8 core principles that together explain why age is advantage for skill mastery in most valuable domains. 8 frameworks for leveraging adult cognitive strengths while compensating for specific challenges. These are not motivational stories. These are neuroscience-based explanations of adult learning capacity, followed by practical application frameworks. Let's examine each principle in depth. Principle 1. Neuroplasticity persists. Your brain still rewires throughout life. The first principle of adult skill mastery is understanding that neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural connections and reorganize existing ones, continues throughout entire lifespan. The myth says plasticity ends in childhood. The science says plasticity changes form, but never stops. Here is what research actually shows about adult neuroplasticity. First, understand what neuroplasticity means. Neuroplasticity is brain's ability to physically restructure itself in response to experience. Learning creates new synaptic connections. Practice strengthens existing connections. Skills become encoded in neural architecture through repeated activation patterns. This process continues throughout life. Adult brains at 40, 50, 60, 70 continue forming new synapses, strengthening connections, and reorganizing networks in response to learning. The rate changes. The mechanisms shift, but the fundamental capacity persists. Second, recognize the critical period myth is misunderstood. Critical periods exist for specific narrow functions. Language accent acquisition has critical period ending around puberty. Binocular vision development has critical period in early childhood, but critical periods are highly specific. They apply to fundamental sensory and motor systems that must develop early for survival reasons. They do not apply to higher-order cognitive skills adults want to learn. Learning chess, programming, painting, writing, business strategy, public speaking. These have no critical periods. Adult brain learns them as effectively as young brain given appropriate methods. The critical period concept has been inappropriately generalized from narrow specific cases to all learning. This generalization is scientifically unjustified. Third, adult neuroplasticity uses different mechanisms than child neuroplasticity, creating different, but not inferior learning. Children learn through massive implicit trial and error. They generate huge numbers of synapses, then prune away unused ones. This is inefficient, but works when time is unlimited. Adults learn through targeted analytical pattern recognition. They generate fewer synapses, but target them more precisely. They use conscious understanding to guide neural restructuring. This is efficient when time is limited and analytical capacity is available. Both approaches work. Adult approach is often faster for complex domains because analytical scaffolding accelerates pattern recognition. Fourth, specific brain regions show continued plasticity throughout adulthood. Hippocampus, critical for memory formation, generates new neurons throughout life. This neurogenesis continues into old age. Prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function, remains plastic through 60 seconds and beyond. Motor cortex reorganizes in response to skill practice at any age. Violinists who start at 40 show same motor cortex reorganization as those who started at 10. The neural changes required for skill mastery occur regardless of age. Fifth, lifestyle factors affect adult plasticity more than age does. Exercise increases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor that promotes neuroplasticity. Sleep consolidates learning. Stress inhibits plasticity. Novelty promotes it. A 50-year-old who exercises, sleeps well, manages stress, and seeks novelty has higher neuroplasticity than sedentary, stressed, sleep-deprived 25-year-old. Age is factor in plasticity, but not primary factor. Lifestyle and learning approach matter more. Sixth, you can deliberately enhance neuroplasticity through specific practices. Aerobic exercise is most powerful neuroplasticity enhancer. 30 minutes of elevated heart rate increases BDNF for hours afterward. Exercise before practice sessions enhances learning. Adequate sleep, especially deep sleep and REM sleep, consolidates learning by strengthening synaptic connections formed during practice. Learning without sleep is dramatically less effective. Novel experiences activate broader neural networks, promoting general plasticity. Varied practice in multiple contexts creates more robust neural encoding than repetitive practice in single context. These practices enhance adult neuroplasticity, making learning more efficient regardless of age. Here is what this principle means practically. Your brain at 30, 40, or 50 is fully capable of the neural reorganization required for skill mastery. The biological capacity exists. The mechanisms differ from childhood but remain effective. Any limitation you experience is not from insufficient neuroplasticity. It is from inappropriate learning methods designed for children being applied to adults, or from lifestyle factors that inhibit plasticity. The hardware works. You need correct software and optimal operating conditions. Practice principle 1 deliberately. Understand neuroplasticity persists throughout life. Recognize critical periods apply only to narrow specific functions. No, adult plasticity uses different but effective mechanisms. Identify brain regions that remain plastic. Control lifestyle factors affecting plasticity. Enhance plasticity through exercise, sleep, and novelty. Your brain still rewires. Use methods that work with adult neuroplasticity. This is the first principle of mastering skills after 30. Principle 2. Analytical capacity accelerates learning. Conscious understanding creates shortcuts. The second principle of adult skill mastery is understanding that adult analytical capacity, which far exceeds young analytical capacity, accelerates learning in complex domains by enabling conscious pattern recognition. Children learn implicitly through massive trial and error. Adults learn explicitly through analytical pattern identification. For complex skills, explicit learning is often faster. Here is how adult analytical capacity creates learning advantage. First, understand the difference between implicit and explicit learning. Implicit learning happens unconsciously through repeated exposure. Pattern absorbed without awareness. This is how children learn language. Here are thousands of examples. Brain extracts patterns automatically. Production emerges without conscious rule understanding. Explicit learning happens consciously through analytical understanding. Pattern identified deliberately. Rules extracted explicitly. Application follows understanding. This is how adults learn foreign language grammar. Study rules, understand structure, apply consciously. Both produce learning, but efficiency differs by domain. Simple procedural skills favor implicit learning. Complex conceptual skills favor explicit learning. Second, adults have developed prefrontal cortex, enabling sophisticated analytical processing children lack. Your brain at 30 or 40 can consciously identify complex patterns, understand abstract principles, and apply conceptual frameworks in ways teenage brain cannot. This analytical capacity means you can learn complex domains faster than children, because you can consciously recognize patterns children must absorb implicitly through much longer exposure. Example: learning chess strategy. Child learns through playing thousands of games, slowly absorbing positional patterns implicitly. Adult learns by studying strategic principles explicitly, understanding why certain positions are strong, then applying that understanding. Adult path to intermediate skill is often faster because analytical understanding accelerates pattern recognition. Third, analytical capacity allows learning from others' experience rather than requiring personal trial and error. Children must experience consequences to learn. Adults can understand explanations of why certain approaches fail without experiencing failure personally. You can read about common mistakes and avoid them. Children cannot effectively use this information because they lack analytical capacity to map abstract description to concrete situation. This means adult learning can skip enormous amounts of trial and error that child learning requires. You learn from others' mistakes without making them yourself. Fourth, explicit understanding creates transfer that implicit learning cannot provide. When you learn implicitly, you learn that specific pattern in that specific context. Transfer to new contexts is limited. When you learn explicitly through analytical understanding of underlying principles, you can apply those principles to novel contexts. Your learning transfers broadly. Example: implicitly learning one programming language does not help much learning second language. Explicitly understanding programming concepts like loops, conditionals, functions, data structures allows applying that understanding to any language. Explicit learning transfers. Adults' analytical capacity enables explicit learning, creating broad transfer children's implicit learning cannot achieve. Fifth, conscious understanding allows deliberate practice targeting specific weaknesses. Implicit learners cannot identify specific weaknesses. They just know something is hard. They practice more of the same without targeting deficiency. Explicit learners can analyze performance, identify specific weakness, design practice targeting that weakness. This targeted practice is far more efficient than general practice. Your analytical capacity means you can diagnose your own learning needs and design optimal practice. This metacognitive capability is huge adult advantage. Sixth, analytical capacity enables learning from instruction and coaching much more effectively. Children cannot effectively process complex verbal instruction. Adult can hear explanation, understand conceptual structure, and implement based on understanding. This means adults can leverage expert guidance much more efficiently. 1 hour with expert coach providing analytical framework is worth dozens of hours of solo trial and error. Your ability to understand and apply analytical instruction is enormous learning accelerator unavailable to young learners. Here is what this principle means practically. For complex conceptual domains like business strategy, writing, programming, design, analysis, leadership, your adult analytical capacity makes you faster learner than you would have been at 20. The skills adults most want to learn: programming, business, creative work, strategic thinking are exactly the skills that benefit most from analytical capacity. Your age's advantage for these domains. Practice principle to deliberately. Use analytical capacity to identify patterns explicitly. Learn from others' experience without personal trial and error. Build conceptual understanding that transfers broadly. Analyze your performance to target specific weaknesses. Leverage expert instruction effectively. Design practice based on conscious understanding of learning needs. Your analytical capacity accelerates learning. Use it strategically. This is the second principle of mastering skills after 30. Principle 3. Experience creates learning scaffolding. Prior knowledge accelerates new skills. The third principle of adult skill mastery is understanding that accumulated experience creates rich knowledge scaffolding that accelerates learning new skills by providing conceptual frameworks and pattern recognition templates. Young learners build from nothing. Adult learners build on extensive existing knowledge. This existing foundation dramatically accelerates new learning in related domains. Here is how experience creates learning advantage. First, understand concept of knowledge scaffolding. Scaffolding is existing knowledge structure new learning attaches to. When you learn something completely novel with no prior related knowledge, you must build from foundation. When you learn something related to existing knowledge, you attach new learning to existing scaffolding. Attachment to scaffolding is much faster than building from foundation. Adults have extensive scaffolding. This makes related learning much faster. Example: learning second programming language when you already know one is infinitely faster than learning first language. The concepts of variables, functions, loops, data structures are already understood. New language is just different syntax for familiar concepts. Learning attaches to existing scaffolding. Second, adults have developed extensive general conceptual frameworks that apply across domains. Frameworks about how systems work, how incentives drive behavior, how to break complex problems into parts, how to identify patterns in data. These general frameworks transfer to new learning domains, providing immediate analytical scaffolding. You do not start from zero even in apparently novel domain because general frameworks apply. Young learners lack these frameworks. They must build domain-specific and general frameworks simultaneously. This is much slower. Third, pattern recognition improves with accumulated experience even in unrelated domains. Your brain has seen thousands of problem structures. When you encounter a new problem, you unconsciously pattern match to previous similar problems, even if content is different. This pattern recognition allows faster identification of problem structure, accelerating solution development. Young learners cannot pattern match to thousands of previous problems because they have not encountered thousands of problems yet. Fourth, adults have developed extensive vocabulary and conceptual language that makes learning faster. When expert explains complex concept, adult has vocabulary to understand explanation. Child lacks vocabulary, making same explanation incomprehensible. This vocabulary advantage means adults can learn from advanced materials children cannot access. You can read expert-level books and understand them. This dramatically accelerates learning. Fifth, professional experience provides context that makes abstract concepts concrete. When learning business strategy, your work experience provides concrete examples illustrating abstract principles. This connection between abstract and concrete accelerates understanding. Young learners learning same material lack concrete experience. Abstract principles remain abstract, making them harder to understand and apply. Your experience provides automatic concreteness. Sixth, life experience develops judgment about what matters and what does not. Adults can identify critical 20% of skill that creates 80% of value. They focus learning there. Young learners cannot discriminate important from unimportant. They distribute effort evenly across all aspects, including trivial ones. This wastes enormous time on low-value learning. Your judgment about what matters focuses learning effort efficiently, creating faster skill acquisition. Here is what this principle means practically. Every year of experience you have accumulated creates richer scaffolding, making related new learning faster. Your 30s, 40 seconds. 50 seconds extensive experience base is enormous advantage for learning skills related to domains you already know. This is why career changers often succeed rapidly in new related fields. Their existing business knowledge, professional skills, and general frameworks transfer, providing massive learning acceleration. Practice principle 3 deliberately. Identify how new skill relates to existing knowledge. Build explicit connections between new learning and prior experience. Use existing conceptual frameworks to structure new learning. Leverage pattern recognition from previous problems. Use advanced materials your vocabulary enables you to access. Apply professional context to make abstract concrete. Focus on high value 20% your judgment identifies. Your experience accelerates learning. Connect new skills to existing knowledge. This is the third principle of mastering skills after 30. Principle 4. Emotional regulation enables focus practice. Adults handle frustration better. The fourth principle of adult skill mastery is understanding that adult emotional regulation capacity, developed through years of experience managing frustration and failure, enables sustained focus practice that young learners cannot maintain. Skill development is frustrating. Adult brains handle frustration better, enabling longer, higher quality practice sessions. Here is how emotional regulation creates learning advantage. First, understand that skill acquisition requires extended time in frustration zone. You must attempt things you cannot yet do. This creates continuous frustration. Most people quit because they cannot tolerate sustained frustration. Adults have developed frustration tolerance through decades of experience with delayed gratification and difficult processes. You know frustration is temporary and progress comes with persistence. Young learners lack this developed tolerance. Frustration causes quitting much more readily. Their practice is shorter and less focused because emotional regulation is underdeveloped. Second, adults can deliberately apply cognitive reappraisal to manage learning frustration. Cognitive reappraisal is consciously reframing difficulty as challenge rather than threat. This psychological skill reduces stress and increases persistence. Research shows cognitive reappraisal improves significantly with age. Your 40-year-old brain reframes difficulty more effectively than your 20-year-old brain did. This means you can maintain practice in difficulty zone longer, creating more effective learning sessions. Third, adult emotional regulation prevents emotional interference with encoding. When children get frustrated during learning, the emotional response interferes with memory encoding. The frustration is remembered more strongly than the lesson. Adults can separate emotional response from cognitive task. You feel frustrated, but frustration does not interfere with encoding what you are learning. This allows learning to proceed even during emotional difficulty. Fourth, adults have realistic expectations about learning timelines, reducing disappointment-driven quitting. You know from experience that significant skills take months or years. This realistic timeline prevents premature quitting. Young learners often expect rapid progress. When progress is slower than expected, they interpret this as inability rather than normal learning curve. This misinterpretation causes quitting. Your realistic expectations prevent this error, enabling sustained practice through slow progress periods. Fifth, adult self-compassion, ability to be kind to yourself during failure, is higher than young self-criticism. Research shows self-compassion increases with age while harsh self-judgment decreases. This matters because self-compassion after mistakes enables continued practice. Self-criticism after mistakes causes avoidance. Your developed self-compassion keeps you practicing after failures. Sixth, adults can use meta-emotional awareness to notice frustration early and implement regulation strategies before emotional state degrades practice quality. You notice yourself getting frustrated. You take break or use reappraisal before frustration escalates to quitting. Young learners lack this meta-awareness. Frustration escalates unnoticed until it terminates practice. This limits their practice effectiveness. Here is what this principle means practically. Your ability to sit with frustration, reframe difficulty, maintain realistic expectations, practice self-compassion, and regulate emotions enables you to practice longer and more effectively than you could have at 20. This is why many people master skills in 40s they could not master in 20s. Not because brain is better, but because emotional regulation is better, enabling sustained practice brain always could have done if emotions had not interfered. Practice principle 4 deliberately. Accept frustration as normal part of skill development. Use cognitive reappraisal, framing difficulty as challenge. Separate emotional response from learning task. Maintain realistic timeline expectations. Practice self-compassion after mistakes. Develop meta-emotional awareness, catching frustration early. Use regulation strategies, maintaining practice quality. Your emotional regulation enables focused practice. This is the fourth principle of mastering skills after 30. Principle 5. Time perspective enables strategic learning. Adults see value of long-term investment. The fifth principle of adult skill mastery is understanding that adult time perspective, the ability to value future outcomes and delay gratification for long-term gains, enables strategic learning investments young learners cannot make. Young learners live in perpetual present. Adult learners plan for future. This future orientation transforms learning approach. Here is how time perspective creates learning advantage. First, understand developmental shift in time perspective. Adolescents and young adults have difficulty valuing future outcomes. Their prefrontal cortex is still developing. They discount future heavily, favoring immediate rewards. Adults have fully developed time perspective. You can vividly imagine future self and value outcomes 5 or 10 years away. This enables investing in skills that pay off slowly over years. This is why adults commit to difficult long-term learning young people abandon. Your time perspective makes the investment worthwhile. Second, adults can strategically choose skills based on long-term value rather than short-term interest. Young learners choose what seems fun now. Adults choose what creates value later, even if difficult now. This strategic selection means your skill portfolio is optimized for long-term outcomes. You learn things that compound over decades, not just things that feel good this week. Your future orientation enables better skill selection, creating higher lifetime value from learning investments. Third, time perspective enables patience through slow progress periods. All valuable skills have slow initial progress, weeks or months of practice before visible competence emerges. Young learners cannot tolerate this slow period. Future competence is too abstract. They need immediate visible progress. Adults can sustain practice through slow periods because future outcome is real and valuable. 6 months feels long to 20-year-old. 6 months is nothing to 40-year-old investing in 20-year skill. Your time perspective enables patience that young learners lack. Fourth, adults understand compound learning, where initial investment pays dividends across lifetime. Learning fundamental skill now creates value for 30 or 40 years. This math makes investment obviously worthwhile. Young learners cannot see this compound value. 10 years is incomprehensibly long time horizon. They cannot value skills that pay off over decades. You can see and value compound returns. This enables investing in fundamental capabilities that young learners skip because payoff seems too distant. Fifth, life stage creates motivation for skill development young people lack. At 35 or 45, you see clearly where current trajectory leads. If you continue current path for 20 more years, you know outcome. Often that outcome is not what you want. This creates powerful motivation for skill development. Learning new skills is not abstract exercise. It is changing life trajectory toward better outcome. Young people cannot see trajectory clearly enough to generate this motivation. Future is too uncertain. Your trajectory clarity creates urgency young learners lack. Sixth, adults have typically established basic life foundation, enabling focused learning investment. Stable housing, sufficient income, established relationships. These foundations are handled. This means learning time is not competing with survival activities. You can invest hours weekly in skill development because basic needs are met. Young learners are often still establishing foundations. Learning competes with finding housing, building income, establishing relationships. Their attention is fragmented. Your established foundation enables focused learning investment young learners cannot match. Here is what this principle means practically. Your ability to value future outcomes, invest strategically in long-term skills, sustain practice through slow progress, see compound returns, feel trajectory-based urgency, and focus attention from stable foundation enables learning commitments young people cannot make. This is why many significant skill development happens after 30. Not because learning is easier, but because motivation and time perspective enable sustained investment. Biological capacity always supported. Practice principle 5 deliberately. Use time perspective to value long-term skill outcomes. Choose skills strategically for lifetime value, not immediate interest. Sustain practice through slow initial progress by focusing on future competence. Calculate compound returns from fundamental skill investment. Use trajectory clarity to generate learning urgency. Leverage stable foundation for focused learning time. Your time perspective enables strategic learning. This is the fifth principle of mastering skills after 30. Principle 6. Resource access accelerates development. Adults can invest in optimal learning. The sixth principle of adult skill mastery is understanding that adult financial and social resources enable access to optimal learning tools, instruction, and environments that accelerate development beyond what young learners can access. Money and networks matter. Adults have both. This creates learning advantages young people cannot match. Here is how resource access accelerates learning. First, understand that learning efficiency varies enormously based on resources available. Self-teaching from free materials is possible but slow. Expert instruction with proper tools is much faster. Adults typically have income enabling investment in optimal learning resources. You can hire expert coaches, buy quality equipment, access premium courses, attend intensive workshops. Young learners usually lack financial resources for optimal learning tools. They self-teach from free materials using inadequate equipment. This works but much slower than resourced approach. Your ability to invest financially in learning dramatically accelerates development. Second, adults have professional networks providing access to experts willing to mentor or advise. Your career has built relationships with people who have mastered skills you want to learn. These experts are often willing to help, not for money, because you are peer or connection. This access to expert guidance is invaluable learning accelerator. Young learners lack professional networks. They cannot access expert guidance easily. Their learning is self-directed without expert input. Your network provides expert access accelerating learning young people cannot match. Third, financial resources enable creating optimal learning environment. Dedicated practice space, proper lighting, good equipment, minimal distractions. These environmental factors significantly affect learning efficiency. Adults can afford creating optimal environment. Young learners practice in suboptimal environments because they cannot afford better. Example, learning music production. Adult can buy quality headphones, acoustic treatment, proper desk setup. Young learner uses laptop speakers in noisy apartment. The adult learning environment is 5x more effective. Your resources enable optimal environment, creating learning efficiency advantage. Fourth, adults can afford time for learning by outsourcing low-value tasks. Cleaning, cooking, errands can be outsourced, buying time for learning. Young learners cannot afford outsourcing. They must do everything themselves, reducing time available for skill practice. Your ability to buy time through outsourcing increases effective practice hours available. Fifth, social capital provides accountability and support structures. You can join mastermind groups, hire accountability coaches, build learning partnerships with peers. These accountability structures dramatically improve practice consistency. Knowing someone is checking your progress increases follow-through. Young learners lack resources for accountability structures. Their practice is self-directed without external accountability. This reduces consistency. Your resources enable accountability, increasing practice regularity. Sixth, adults can take intensive learning experiences unavailable to young learners. Week-long intensive workshops, multi-month immersion programs, expensive retreats with expert instruction. These intensive experiences compress years of normal learning into months. They are expensive, but adults can often afford them. Young learners cannot access intensive experiences due to cost. Their learning is piecemeal over extended time. Your access to intensive experiences accelerates development beyond distributed practice. Here is what this principle means practically. Your financial resources and professional network enable investing in expert instruction, optimal equipment, proper environment, time through outsourcing, accountability structures, and intensive experiences. These resource advantages mean your learning per hour invested is higher than young learner with same biological capacity, but no resources. You learn faster not because your brain is better, but because your resources enable optimal learning approach. Practice principle 6 deliberately. Invest financially in expert instruction rather than pure self-teaching. Leverage professional network for expert access and guidance. Create optimal learning environment with proper equipment and space. Outsource low-value tasks, buying time for learning. Build accountability structures, ensuring practice consistency. Access intensive learning experiences when valuable. Your resources accelerate learning. Invest them strategically. This is the sixth principle of mastering skills after 30. Principle 7. Domain-specific advantages. Many skills favor adult learners. The seventh principle of adult skill mastery is understanding that specific high-value skill domains actually favor adult learners due to required cognitive capacities, life experience, or resource needs. Not all skills are equal regarding age advantage. Some favor young learners. Many favor adult learners. Here is how to identify and leverage domains favoring adults. First, understand which cognitive capacities peak young versus late. Fluid intelligence, raw processing speed, peaks early 20s. Crystallized intelligence, accumulated knowledge and wisdom, peaks 60 seconds or later. Skills requiring primarily fluid intelligence favor young learners. Mental arithmetic speed, reaction time dependent skills, pure memory capacity. Skills requiring primarily crystallized intelligence favor adult learners. Strategic analysis, pattern recognition in complex domains, judgment-heavy decisions. Most valuable skills adults want to learn are crystallized intelligence dependent. Business strategy, leadership, complex problem solving, design. These favor your developed crystallized intelligence. Second, identify skills requiring life experience for deep understanding. Many domains cannot be truly understood without having lived experiences young people have not had. Parenting skills require being parent. Relationship counseling requires having relationships. Business leadership requires having experienced workplace politics. Financial planning requires having managed money through different life stages. These domains are essentially inaccessible to young learners not because of cognitive limitation, but because required experience does not exist yet. Your life experience makes you ideal learner for experience-dependent domains. Third, recognize skills requiring emotional intelligence and regulation favor adults. Emotional intelligence increases with age. Complex interpersonal skills like negotiation, conflict resolution, leadership, sales require high emotional intelligence. Young learners attempting these skills are cognitively capable, but emotionally underdeveloped. Their practice is limited by emotional regulation capacity, not cognitive capacity. Your developed emotional intelligence makes you better learner for emotionally demanding skills. Fourth, identify skills requiring patience and long-term thinking. Some skills only make sense with long-time horizon, long-term investing, slow artistic practices, career-long skill development. Young learners cannot value these properly due to short-time horizons. They abandon practices that require years to show results. Your time perspective makes you ideal learner for patience requiring domains. Fifth, recognize resource-intensive skills favor adult learners. Some skills require significant financial investment, quality equipment, expert instruction, travel for learning experiences. Young learners cannot afford resource-intensive skills. Their development is limited by resource constraints. Your resources make you ideal learner for capital-intensive domains. Sixth, understand relationship-dependent skills require networks, business development, partnership building, collaboration. These require access to professionals willing to work with you. Young learners lack professional networks for relationship-dependent skill practice. They cannot access realistic practice environments. Your network provides practice environments for relationship-dependent skills. Seventh, identify skills where strategic learning is more effective than trial and error learning. Some skills are learned efficiently through experience. Others are learned more efficiently through study and analysis. Skills with clear principles and theories favor analytical learners. Programming, chess, writing, design, music theory, business strategy. These domains have codified knowledge that can be studied. Analytical approach is faster than pure trial and error. Your analytical capacity makes you faster learner in principle-based domains. Here is what this principle means practically. Many high-value skills you want to learn actually favor adult learners. Business skills, leadership, complex problem solving, relationship skills, resource-intensive skills, strategic domains. These are exactly the skills that create most career and life value, and they favor your developed capacities over young raw processing speed. Choose skills that favor adult learners. You are not competing against teenagers for those skills. You have inherent advantages. Practice Principle 7 deliberately. Identify skills requiring crystallized intelligence where you have advantage. Choose experience-dependent domains your life experience enables. Leverage emotional intelligence for interpersonal skills. Select patience requiring domains your time perspective supports. Use resources for capital-intensive skills. Apply network for relationship-dependent practice. Focus on strategic domains favoring analytical learning. Many valuable skills favor adult learners. Choose those domains. This is the seventh principle of mastering skills after 30. Principle 8. Identity integration. Adults integrate skills into established self. The eighth and final principle of adult skill mastery is understanding that adults integrate new skills into established identity and existing life, creating sustainable long-term practice, while young learners often abandon skills when identity shifts. Skill mastery requires years of practice. Adults have stable identity supporting sustained practice. Young people have shifting identity causing skill abandonment. Here is how identity stability creates learning advantage. First, understand that identity stability dramatically affects skill persistence. Young adults are exploring identity. Interests shift. Commitments change. Skills started at 20 are often abandoned at 25 when identity shifts. Adults have more established identity. You know who you are. New skills integrate into stable self rather than being tied to exploratory identity. This stability means skills you start at 35 are likely to be practiced for decades, because they are integrated into stable identity, not experimental identity. Your identity stability enables long-term skill commitment. Young identity exploration prevents. Second, adults learn skills for intrinsic reasons tied to established values. You know what matters to you. Skills you choose align with those values, creating deep motivation. Young learners often learn skills for external validation or identity experimentation. When external pressure removes or identity shifts, motivation disappears. Your value-aligned learning creates sustainable motivation, supporting decades of practice. Third, established identity provides context for skill application. You know where new skill fits in your life, how it connects to existing commitments, how it enhances established roles. This integration makes skill practice sustainable because it fits into life rather than competing with life. Young learners often cannot integrate skills into life context because life context is not yet established. Skills remain isolated from daily life, making practice unsustainable. Fourth, adults have developed self-knowledge about learning preferences and optimal practice conditions. You know when you learn best, what environment works, what practice structure suits your personality. This self-knowledge enables designing practice approach matching your needs, creating higher practice quality and consistency. Young learners lack self-knowledge. They use generic approaches that may not match their learning style, reducing effectiveness. Fifth, identity stability enables public commitment to learning, reducing quitting likelihood. Adults can announce intentions and follow through because identity supports commitment. Young learners hesitate to commit publicly because identity might shift, invalidating commitment. This prevents using public accountability. Your stable identity enables public commitment, creating accountability, supporting practice consistency. Sixth, established life roles provide natural application contexts for skills. Learning parenting skills gets immediately applied with your children. Learning leadership gets applied at work. Learning financial planning applies to your actual finances. This immediate real-world application accelerates learning through concrete practice. Theory connects immediately to practice. Young learners often learn skills before having application context. Theory remains abstract. Practice is simulated, not real. This slows learning. Your established life provides immediate application, accelerating skill development. Seventh, adult identity includes being a lifelong learner for many people. You have proven to yourself you can learn. This identity as learner supports starting new skills. Young adults often have not established learner identity. They may see themselves as naturally talented or not talented rather than as capable learners. Your learner identity enables approaching new skills with confidence, supporting sustained practice. Here is what this principle means practically. Your stable identity, clear values, established life context, developed self-knowledge, ability to commit publicly, real-world application opportunities, and learner identity create sustainable long-term practice, supporting skill mastery. Young learners often have biological capacity, but cannot sustain practice long enough for mastery due to identity instability. Your identity stability enables the sustained practice mastery requires. Practice principle 8 deliberately. Choose skills aligning with stable values, creating deep motivation. Integrate skills into established life context, making practice sustainable. Use self-knowledge, designing optimal practice approach. Commit publicly, leveraging identity stability for accountability. Apply skills immediately in real-world contexts. Embrace learner identity, approaching new skills with confidence. Your stable identity enables sustained practice. This is the 8th principle of mastering skills after 30. Your learning prime is now. You now understand the 8 principles explaining why age is advantage for skill mastery in most valuable domains. Neuroplasticity persists throughout life. Analytical capacity accelerates learning. Experience creates learning scaffolding. Emotional regulation enables focused practice. Time perspective enables strategic learning. Resource access accelerates development. Domain-specific advantages favor adults. Identity integration enables sustained practice. These are not motivational platitudes. These are scientific explanations of adult learning advantages based on neuroscience, psychology, and developmental research. Here is what you must understand. The belief that you are too old to master new skills is completely false for vast majority of valuable skills. Your brain at 30, 40, or 50 has different capacities than brain at 20. Some capacities decline slightly. Many capacities improved significantly. For the skills you actually want to learn, business skills, creative skills, strategic skills, interpersonal skills, the net effect is advantage, not disadvantage. Most people will never discover this because they accept early start myth without question. They resign themselves to mediocrity in skills they could master. They waste decades of peak learning capacity because they believe it does not exist. You can choose differently. You can understand how adult brain actually learns. You can leverage analytical capacity, experience scaffolding, emotional regulation, time perspective, resources, domain advantages, and identity stability. These advantages compound into learning effectiveness that young learners cannot match. You learn differently, not worse. In many domains, better. Here is how to begin mastering skills after 30 immediately. Choose one valuable skill to develop, not 3. 1. The skill that aligns with your values and establish life, creating sustainable motivation. For that skill, apply one principle per week, building comprehensive approach. Week 1, neuroplasticity. Enhance plasticity through exercise before practice. Ensure adequate sleep. Add novelty to practice. Week 2, analytical capacity. Build explicit conceptual understanding of skill principles before practicing execution. Week 3, experience scaffolding. Identify connections between new skill and existing knowledge, creating learning acceleration. Week 4, emotional regulation. Develop frustration tolerance practices, enabling sustained practice in difficulty zone. Week 5, time perspective. Calculate long-term compound value of skill, justifying sustained investment. Week 6, resources. Invest financially in expert instruction and optimal learning environment. Week 7, domain advantages. Confirm chosen skill favors adult learners in specific ways. Week 8, identity integration. Integrate skill into established life context and values, creating sustainable practice. One principle per week. 8 weeks total. By end, you have comprehensive adult learning approach leveraging all advantages. Then practice consistently for 1 year. Track progress monthly. Adjust approach based on what works. In 1 year, you will have developed significant competence in valuable skill. In 3 years, advanced competence. In 5 years, expert level performance in many domains. This is not fantasy. This is realistic timeline for adults who practice consistently using methods matching adult learning capacity. The evidence is everywhere. People mastering programming in 40s, learning languages in 50s, developing artistic skills in 60s, starting successful businesses in 50s. These are not exceptions. These are people who understood their learning capacity persists and used appropriate methods. You have decades of high-quality learning capacity remaining. The question is whether you will use it. Stop believing you are too old. Start understanding why you are now ready. Your analytical capacity is peak. Your experience base is extensive. Your emotional regulation is developed. Your time perspective is long. Your resources are available. Your chosen domains favor you. Your identity is stable. These are not consolation prizes for aging. These are genuine advantages for learning valuable complex skills. The skills that create most value in careers and lives are exactly the skills that favor adult learners. Business acumen, strategic thinking, creative work, interpersonal mastery, leadership, complex problem solving. You are not too late for these skills. You are finally ready for them. Master skills after 30. Your learning capacity is different from 20, but not inferior. For valuable skills, it is superior. Age is advantage. Use it. Begin now. If you made it to the end of this audiobook, you are serious about building real capability. Most people stop halfway through. You stayed. That tells me something about your commitment to becoming better. This is exactly the kind of person this channel is built for. People who want substance over motivation, systems over inspiration, deep frameworks over surface tactics. If that resonates with you, Subscribe to this channel. Every audiobook here follows the same principle. Real capability development through practical frameworks you can apply immediately. No fluff, no motivational empty calories, just systematic approaches to becoming genuinely better. New audiobooks on competence, discipline, influence, and strategic thinking publish regularly. Subscribe so you do not miss them. And if this audiobook added value, leave a comment sharing which principle or framework you will implement first. I read every single comment. Your engagement helps these audiobooks reach other serious people who will actually use this information. Thank you for listening all the way through. Now go build what you learned.